I opened my eyes to an alien sky. The medic's voice was the first sound I heard. James Hatcher's eyes opened to violet clouds drifting across a amber horizon, 3 moons hanging in perfect alignment above distant mountains that shimmered like heat mirages. His brain struggled to process the impossibility. He'd been in a urban war zone, concrete and smoke, and the screaming of his team over comms. Not this. Not beauty. Pain arrived a heartbeat later. His left arm was fire and absence, nerve endings screaming at something that shouldn't exist. He tried to lift it, found cold metal responding instead of flesh. The weight was wrong. The balance was wrong. Everything was wrong. "Don't move yet," a voice said in perfect English, though the accent bent the vowels into unfamiliar shapes. "Your neural integration is incomplete. Sudden movement could cause cascade failure." Jim's head rolled right. The woman standing beside his bed defied every briefing he'd ever received about non-terrestrial species. Green skin caught the amber light from the impossible sky, smooth and flawless. Red hair fell past her shoulders in waves that seemed to move independent of any breeze. Pointed ears swept back from a face that was almost human. High cheekbones, full lips, eyes that were too large and entirely gold without any visible pupil. She was beautiful. His physiological response to that fact, registered before his tactical training could suppress it. "Where am I?" he managed, throat raw. "Medical facility, Outpost 13, if that means anything to you." She moved closer, hands empty, but wearing what looked like a physician's coat over dark, fitted clothing. "I'm Dr. Sera Valen. I've been treating you for the past 48 hours. 48 hours. 2 days gone. Jim's hand, his right hand, still flesh, moved to his chest, found unfamiliar fabric instead of body armor. Someone had stripped him, dressed him in something soft that felt like silk but moved like cotton. He said. Sarah's expression flickered. Not quite sympathy. Clinical assessment with something else underneath. "You were the only survivor we recovered," she said. The words landed like shrapnel. Rodriguez, Takshi, Yoon, all gone. The mission had been compromised from the start, intel bad, extraction non-existent, and now he was, where? He looked past Sera at the room. Medical equipment he didn't recognize, displays showing readouts in an alphabet his translator implant should have parsed but couldn't. The sky above them wasn't a window. It was a hologram, he realized, projected across the entire ceiling, beautiful and artificial. "The arm," he said, lifting the metal limb. It responded, but the movement felt sluggish, fighting him. "What did you do to me?" Sera pulled a scanner from her coat, aimed it at his shoulder. "Saved your life. You were bleeding out when our patrol found you. The tissue damage was extensive. We had to amputate above the elbow. Our biotechnology could provide a replacement, but—" She paused, studying her scanner's display. Her eyes widened slightly. "Your body is responding in ways I've never seen." "What ways?" She set the scanner down, reached toward his shoulder. Her fingers hovered just above the seam where metal met flesh. "May I?" Jim nodded, watching her face more than her hands. Sarah's touch was careful, clinical, but her skin was warmer than he expected. She traced the integration site, and he felt it. Not just her fingers, but pressure, temperature, texture, sensations that shouldn't exist through metal and circuitry. "This shouldn't be possible," she murmured. Her other hand joined the first, probing gently. "The integration is actively progressing. Your tissue is growing into the interface matrix, creating new neural pathways. Our augmentation technology is designed to remain separate from biological systems. Clean integration, no contamination. But you're—" She looked up at him, gold eyes intense. "You're absorbing it, rewriting it." "Is that bad?" "I don't know. Honest, unsettling. No one's ever done this before." Jim tested the arm again, curling metal fingers. The movement came easier this time, more natural. His body was adapting. That's what humans did. Adapted, survived, refused to quit. But Sarah's expression suggested this was more than standard recovery. "Why does that scare you?" he asked. Her hands withdrew. "It doesn't scare me, it fascinates me." The way she said it made his pulse jump. Not just medical fascination. Something else in those alien eyes. Something almost hungry. She noticed his reaction. He saw her gaze flick to the monitor showing his vitals, saw her lips part slightly as his heart rate spiked. "Your cardiovascular response is elevated," she said, voice carefully neutral. You're touching me and you look like that. I'm human, not dead. A smile ghosted across her face, gone almost instantly, professional mask sliding back into place. But he'd seen it, proof that whatever else she wasn't immune to him either. I need to run more tests, Sera said, stepping back. Your integration rate is accelerating. I should document. The door opened without warning. 2 figures in uniform entered, not medical staff. Security, Jim's brain supplied, armed with weapons he didn't recognize but understood instinctively. The taller one, male with gray skin and black eyes, looked at Jim like he was a specimen. Dr. Valen, the guard said, Chief Physician Kalles wants the subject moved to the research wing. He's not stable for transport, Sera said immediately. The integration is at a critical phase. Moving him wasn't a request, Doctor. Jim watched Sera's jaw tighten, watched her hands curl into fists at her sides. She turned back to him, and for just a moment, her mask slipped completely. What he saw underneath was guilt. I'll accompany him, she said. Monitor the transfer personally. The guards moved to flank his bed. Jim sat up slowly, metal arm hanging heavy at his side. Through the holographic sky, he caught a reflection in the dark glass of the observation window. Sera's workspace, multiple screens showing data streams. One screen still active, displaying his file. His photograph, his military record, and above it all, a header in alien script his implant finally translated. Subject acquisition successful. Begin integration protocols. Not recovered, acquired. His eyes met Sera's. She knew that he knew. The air between them went sharp, with unspoken acknowledgement. Jim, she said quietly, using his name for the first time, let me explain. But the guards were already moving, and the beautiful alien sky above them suddenly felt like exactly what it was, a cage dressed up as comfort, and he was the prize they'd been hunting all along. The research wing was colder. Sterile white walls replaced the holographic sky, and the examination table was hard metal that pulled heat from Jim's body through the thin medical gown. Chief Physician Torin Kalles stood waiting, silver blue skin and ice-chip eyes studying Jim like a specimen under glass. Remarkable, Kalles said to Sera. 48 hours and the integration has progressed further than any test subject achieved in months. Your preliminary assessments? Sera moved to the display panel, movements precise. Neural pathway formation is accelerating. His tissue is creating hybrid interfaces, organic material incorporating synthetic components at the cellular level. The rejection response isn't triggering. His immune system treats the augmentation as wounded flesh to be healed. Show me, Kalles said. Jim kept still as Sera approached with a scanner. Her hand settled on his shoulder, fingers pressing the integration site. A 3-dimensional image appeared above the table. His shoulder in translucent layers, metallic threads woven through muscle and nerve like roots. The biotechnology is being converted, Sera explained. His body is growing blood vessels into the synthetic tissue, creating new neural pathways. Our species engineered away this kind of aggressive adaptation centuries ago. We perfected our biology, eliminated disease, optimized every system. But that perfection came with constraints. Our bodies can't integrate change anymore. The plague, Jim said. Both looked at him. You're dying, and you need me to figure out how to fix it. Kales's expression flattened. Dr. Valen, you've been discussing classified data with the subject? He deserves to know why he's here, Sera said. He's a specimen, not a patient. He's a person. Kalles stared at her, something dangerous flickering behind his eyes. Then he smiled, cold. 48 hours, Dr. Valen. Document everything. If you can't provide actionable data, we move to more invasive procedures. He paused at the door. Remember where your loyalties lie. The door sealed. Sera exhaled, hand still on Jim's shoulder. How invasive? Jim asked. Dissection. They'll cut you apart to understand how you work. You'll be conscious they need to monitor your responses. And you're okay with that? Her gold eyes met his. No, that's why I'm finding answers before they get the chance. She moved around the table, gathering equipment. Her coat hung open over a fitted jumpsuit that traced her shape despite its practical design. She caught him looking, paused. Your pupils are dilating, she observed. Heart rate elevated. Is it fear or... You know what it is. Her lips parted. My people don't respond this way anymore. We regulated our hormones, optimized reproduction. Attraction is a choice we make intellectually, not something that just happens. Sounds lonely. It's efficient. But doubt colored her voice. She set down the scanner, moved closer with adhesive sensors. I need to map your full neural response. The integration extends beyond the arm. I'll need to monitor multiple contact points. Meaning, I need to touch you extensively. Jim watched her gather sensors. She placed the first on his right wrist, fingers lingering, then his inner elbow, his collarbone, her breath ghosting across his skin, each touch precise, necessary, lasting just slightly longer than required. Your people really don't feel this? He asked as she leaned close to place a sensor near his throat. We feel, but we control it, choose when to allow it. Her fingers settled against his pulse. This isn't messy. She swallowed. I can feel your heartbeat. It's faster than it should be, and mine is matching it, which shouldn't be possible. Jim raised his metal hand slowly. She didn't pull away. His fingers brushed her wrist. Cold metal, careful touch. You're adapting too, he said, to me. Her breath caught. Her free hand came to his chest, palm settling over his heart. This is unprofessional. Is it still unprofessional if we're both thinking it? Yes, no conviction behind it. I have someone dying from the plague, my brother. That's why I agreed to this project. I can't afford to be distracted by wanting me anyway? Her eyes closed. When they opened, conflict and desire warred openly. You're very direct. Soldier. I have 46 hours before they start cutting, no time for subtlety. He held her gaze. If I'm attracted to someone trying to save my life while risking her own, I don't pretend otherwise. Something cracked in her expression, the clinical mask falling away to reveal exhaustion, desperation, loneliness. Tell me about the plague, Jim said, offering an exit. The real version. Sera withdrew her hands, pulled up a chair. They were at eye level now, close enough that he could see faint patterns in her green skin. 80 years ago, we achieved perfection, she began. The great optimization, eliminated every genetic flaw, optimized every system. We were going to live forever, never suffer the failures of flesh. She leaned back. 10 years ago, people started dying from simple injuries. Bones that wouldn't heal. Infections that spread despite enhanced immune systems. We'd made ourselves so perfect we couldn't adapt anymore. Our bodies reject anything that tries to repair damage. Including augmentation, Jim said, flexing metal fingers. Especially augmentation. We built bodies that can't be fixed once they break. She looked at his arm with longing. Until your body adapts, incorporates foreign material, rewrites itself. That's what we lost. The ability to survive by being flexible instead of flawless. And if you figure out how I do it, you save your people. Including my brother, Ren. Injured 6 months ago, crushed spine, damaged lungs. Without augmentation, he's dying, slowly, painfully. Her voice dropped. I can only watch and hope we find an answer before it's too late. Jim understood. The guilt, the determination. She wasn't studying a specimen. She was desperate. I had a mission before your people grabbed me, he said. Infiltrating a research facility. Orders said it was developing bioweapons targeting human colonies. We got bad intel, walked into an ambush, lost my team and my arm. He paused. But before everything went to hell, I accessed part of their database. What I saw wasn't bioweapons targeting humans. It was research on augmentation rejection. Someone studying how to weaponize the plague, make it worse, ensure your species couldn't adapt. Sera's eyes widened. That's impossible. Why would anyone weaponize something killing us? Someone who benefits from your military being crippled. Basic warfare. Destroy your enemy's ability to repair and reinforce, then strike when they're vulnerable. Do you have proof? My mission file, in my neural implant, encrypted, but you must have extraction tech. Sera stood, moved to the display. Her fingers flew across the interface. I can access basic functions, but encrypted data requires higher clearance. I'd need to go through CALES, the Security Council. If there's proof of conspiracy... They'll bury it, Jim finished. Disappear us and the evidence. She turned. You're suggesting I break protocol. I'm suggesting you do what's necessary to save lives. A ghost of a smile. If I access classified systems without authorization, they'll arrest me. strip my credentials, charge me with espionage. And if you don't, your 48 hours runs out, Kaless orders dissection, and we never learn if the plague was engineered. Her hands fisted. My brother dies not knowing if his suffering was murder. Heavy silence. Then Sera moved to the door, spoke quietly to a guard. The guard nodded and left. When she returned, determination hardened her expression. I'm going to do something incredibly stupid, and you're going to help me. What do we need? Access to a secure terminal. Your cooperation in a very invasive neural procedure. 4 hours before shift change. She pulled up a schematic, a device like a mechanical spider. I need to directly access your implant through the connection port at your skull base. It will hurt. The port isn't designed for external access without anesthetic, and I can't use anesthetic. I need you conscious for authentication codes. Jim's stomach tightened. Extended neural contact causes intense pain. You'll feel like your brain is being electrocuted and crushed simultaneously. Most people pass out after 30 seconds. How long do I need to stay conscious? 5 minutes minimum, maybe 10 if encryption is layered. If someone catches us, we both end up in detention. Your 48 hours becomes 0 and they dissect you anyway. She met his eyes. Last chance to back out. Jim swung his legs off the table, stood. Your brother is dying. My team is dead. If there's even a chance this stops whoever did this, I'll take 10 minutes of pain. You might not survive. Then work fast. Something shifted in her expression. Gratitude, fear, determination, maybe affection. She gathered equipment quickly. Outside footsteps approached. Guard rotation. We have a window, Sera said quietly. Move now. Stay close. Don't speak unless I tell you. If questioned, you're being transferred for detailed neural scans. Jim followed her to the door. She paused, hand on the control panel, and looked back. The holographic sky had been a beautiful lie. This was truth. Sterile walls, armed guards, a desperate doctor risking everything for family. What he hadn't expected was how his pulse jumped when her hand found his, steadying him as they stepped into the corridor. Not just attraction, something deeper. Partnership forged in desperation. Trust built on action, her choosing to help him choosing to trust her. They were running out of time, walking into danger with nothing but determination. But for the first time since waking under that alien sky, Jim thought they might actually have a chance. The data analysis lab was empty, abandoned for the night cycle. Sera's clearance opened the door without question, and Jim followed her into a space filled with holographic displays and neural interface chairs that looked more like torture devices than medical equipment. Sit, Sera said, gesturing to the nearest chair. Jim lowered himself into it. The chair adjusted automatically, conforming to his body with uncomfortable precision. Restraints emerged from the armrests. Those necessary, he asked. If you start seizing, I can't have you damaging the equipment, or yourself. Sera moved behind him, her fingers finding the base of his skull. The connection port should be here. Your people use standard military implants, correct? Standard enough. Her touch was clinical but gentle, probing through his hair until she found the raised disc of the port. This is going to hurt the moment I make contact. The implant will interpret the connection as an attack and flood your system with pain signals to make you pull away. You need to fight that instinct. I've been tortured before. Not like this. She pulled the spider-like device from her equipment case. Up close, it was worse. Dozens of hair-thin probes that would burrow into his neural port and interface directly with his brain. This bypasses your body's pain regulation. It's pure signal, unfiltered. Your training won't help. Jim's jaw tightened. How long until you're in? 30 seconds to establish connection. Then I need your authentication codes while I navigate the encryption. Every layer you unlock, the pain intensifies. She hesitated, her hand still resting against his neck. I can stop any time you ask. Just say the word. I won't ask. Something flashed in her gold eyes. Respect, maybe admiration. She positioned the device against his port. On 3, 1, 2. She didn't reach 3. The probes punched in and Jim's world exploded into white-hot agony. Every nerve in his body caught fire simultaneously. His spine arched, muscles locking. The restraints engaged, holding him in place as his brain tried to tear itself apart. He couldn't breathe, couldn't think, could only endure as the pain built and built and... First code, Sera's voice cut through, distant, clinical. Jim, I need the first authentication code. He couldn't remember his own name, let alone codes. The pain was everything, consuming. Her hand found his, real and solid. Stay with me. The code, first layer. Training kicked in, muscle memory bypassing conscious thought. His mouth moved, spitting out numbers and letters while his body screamed. Good, hold on. The pain shifted, changing frequency. If before was fire, this was ice and lightning, and being crushed under impossible weight. Jim heard himself making sounds, animal noises torn from his throat, his metal arms strained against the restraints, servos whining. Second code, Jim, second code now. He gave it. Had to. Sera's hand tightened on his, anchor in the storm. Minutes passed like hours. The device burrowed deeper, and Jim felt it, foreign presence in his mind, rifling through memories and data, violating. Almost there, one more layer, Sera's voice was strained. You're doing incredibly well. Just one more. The final code came out as a scream, and then, release. The probes retracted. Jim collapsed forward against the restraints, gasping. Sweat poured down his face, his whole body shook with aftershocks. Sera was there immediately, releasing the restraints, her hands on his face. Breathe, just breathe, it's over. Jim's vision slowly cleared. She was close, green skin pale, red hair disheveled, worry etched deep in her features. Did you get it? He managed. Yes. She helped him sit back, checking his vitals with shaking hands. Your neural activity spiked beyond anything I've seen. You should be comatose. How are you conscious? Stubborn. A laugh escaped her, nearly hysterical. Stubborn, that's your medical explanation. It's worked so far. She pressed her forehead against his, just for a moment. Relief and gratitude radiating from her. Then she pulled back, professional mask sliding into place but not quite fitting right anymore. The data is downloading, 10 minutes. She moved to the displays, fingers flying. What you saw was accurate. This facility, the one you infiltrated, it's registered to a shell corporation, but the funding traces back to... Oh no. Jim stood on unsteady legs, moved behind her. The display showed financial records, personnel files, research data, and at the center of it all, a name he recognized. General Vrex Kane, Sera whispered. He's on the military council, one of the most decorated commanders in our history. And engineering a plague to cripple your military from within, Jim said. Why? Power. Control. Sera scrolled through more files, her expression growing darker. The plague doesn't affect everyone equally. The military has different augmentation protocols than civilians. If he controls the cure, he controls who gets to be combat effective. He could stage a coup, replace the entire command structure with loyalists. Can you prove it? This is proof. Your mission data cross-referenced with our medical records, financial trails leading directly to his office. She pulled a data crystal from the terminal, held it up. Everything we need to expose him. Alarms shrieked through the facility. Jim's combat instincts flared. That's for us? They must have detected the unauthorized access. Sera was already moving, grabbing equipment. We need to go, now. The door exploded inward, not opened, exploded. 3 figures in combat armor stormed through, weapons raised, not security, military. Jim didn't think. His metal arm grabbed the neural interface chair and hurled it. The chair caught the first soldier in the chest, sent him crashing back. Jim was moving before the soldier hit the ground, closing distance with the second. The augmented arm was faster than he expected, stronger. His punch caved in the soldier's helmet. But the third had his weapon up, aimed at Sera. She moved like water, rolling under the shot and coming up with a medical laser. Not designed as a weapon, but she made it one, burning through the soldier's armor at the joints. He fell, screaming. You can fight, Jim said. I'm a doctor doesn't mean I'm helpless. She grabbed his hand. This way. They ran. The facility was awake now. Alarms wailing, soldiers mobilizing. Sera pulled him through maintenance corridors, service passages, places she knew from years of working here. But more soldiers kept appearing, cutting off routes. We're not getting out the front, Jim said. There's a cargo bay. Ships launch every hour. Sera checked a wall display. Next departure in 4 minutes. They had 3 minutes when they reached the bay. A transport ship sat on the pad, loading containers. Workers scattered as Jim and Sera sprinted across the deck. More soldiers poured in behind them, weapons fire turning the air into a light show. Jim's metal arm grabbed a cargo container and threw it. The container crashed into a support column, bringing down part of the ceiling. Bought them seconds. Sera's fingers danced across the ship's access panel. I can override the lock, but I need time. How much time? 30 seconds. Jim turned to face their pursuers. 6 soldiers, fanning out with professional precision. His metal arm was already damaged, sparks flying from the shoulder joint. He was exhausted, still shaking from the neural extraction. 6 trained soldiers in full combat gear. Bad odds, but he'd faced worse. "Get that door open," he said. The first soldier charged. Jim used his momentum against him, redirecting the man into a support beam. The second came in low, knife flashing. Jim caught the blade with his metal hand. The edge bit deep, severing synthetic fibers, but held long enough for him to deliver a knee strike that dropped the soldier. 3 more converged. Jim grabbed one, used him as a shield against the other's fire, threw the body into them, bought more seconds. His vision was graying at the edges. Too much damage, too much strain. A hand grabbed his, Sera, pulling him backward. "It's open, move!" They tumbled into the ship. The door sealed as weapons fire hammered the hull. Sera was already at the controls, overriding launch protocols with stolen command codes. "Strap in," she said. Jim barely made it to a seat before the engines fired. The ship lurched upward, acceleration crushing him into the restraints. Through the viewport, he saw soldiers scrambling, saw more ships powering up to pursue. "They're launching interceptors," he said. "I know." Sera's hands moved across the controls. "This cargo hauler isn't meant for combat. We can't outrun them." "Can we jump to FTL?" "Not in atmosphere. We need to clear the gravity well first." She pulled up a tactical display. 2 minutes to minimum safe distance. They'll have us in 90 seconds. Jim unbuckled, moved to her side. The city sprawled below them, alien and beautiful. Above, the violet sky deepened toward black, and behind, 3 interceptors were gaining fast. "I have an idea," he said. "How much control do you have over the cargo bay?" "What are you thinking?" "Those containers we loaded. What's in them?" Sera checked the manifest, her eyes widened. "Medical supplies, including pressurized coolant tanks." "Can you vent them?" She understood immediately. Her fingers flew across the controls. "Opening cargo bay. 30 seconds until they're in weapons range." Jim watched the tactical display, the interceptors closed in, weapon systems powering up. 20 seconds. 10. "Now," he said. The cargo bay doors opened. Containers tumbled out, depressurizing violently in the thin atmosphere. Coolant tanks ruptured, creating a massive cloud of frozen particles and debris. The interceptors hit it at full speed. One managed to pull up, but the other 2 flew straight through. Their cockpits frosted over instantly, sensors blinded. One spiraled down, out of control. The other managed to stay in the air but fell behind, struggling with compromised systems. The remaining interceptor kept coming. "Jump to FTL the moment we can," Jim said. 40 seconds. The interceptor opened fire. Energy bolts hammered their aft shields. Warning lights filled the cockpit. Sera gritted her teeth, hands steady on the controls despite the ship shaking around them. 20 seconds. More hits. The shield indicator dropped toward red. Jim braced himself against her chair, watching space approach, watching death pursue them. 10 seconds. The interceptor launched missiles. They streaked through space, closing impossibly fast. 5. "Sera, I see them. Hold on." The FTL drive engaged. Reality twisted, stretched, and snapped. The missiles hit empty space where their ship had been. Silence. They hung in the infinite dark between stars, alone. Sera slumped in her chair. Jim's legs gave out. He sat on the deck beside her, adrenaline crash hitting hard. "We made it," she said, voice small. "We made it." She looked down at him, at the data crystal still clutched in her hand. "I just committed treason. Stole military data, helped an enemy combatant escape." "You saved your brother's life, and maybe your whole species." "Maybe," she touched his face, fingers trembling. "You took torture for this? Nearly died? Why?" Because you asked. Because it was right. He caught her hand, held it. Because I'm starting to think losing my team brought me to you for a reason. Sera's expression broke. She slid from the chair into his arms, and he held her while she shook with delayed fear and relief. Around them, the ship drifted through the void. They were wanted criminals now. Fugitives. Everything they'd known was gone. But they had each other, and they had the truth. It would have to be enough. The rebel base was hidden in an asteroid field carved from rock and shielded from sensors. Dr. Nestor Quillen met them at the docking bay, an older man with weathered gray skin and eyes that had seen too much loss. "Sera," he said, pulling her into an embrace. "When I heard you'd gone rogue, I hoped you'd come here." "We have proof, Nestor, about the plague." She handed him the data crystal. "It's all there." Quillen's hands trembled as he took it. "If this is real—" "It's real," Jim said. "I nearly died getting it." Quillen studied him, taking in the damaged metal arm, the exhaustion carved into his features. "The human specimen. I've read about you. Your integration response is unprecedented." "Can you synthesize a cure from it?" Sera asked. "Come with me." He led them deeper into the base. Rebels worked in makeshift labs, repurposed medical equipment, desperation made manifest. They passed rooms full of the dying, people in various stages of augmentation rejection, bodies failing piece by piece. Jim saw Sera's expression tighten with each room. "Your brother?" he asked quietly. "Here somewhere. I haven't seen him in 3 months, couldn't risk contact." Quillen's private lab was more sophisticated than the others. He uploaded the data crystal, and holographic displays filled the space with evidence of conspiracy. Financial records, research data, proof of General Kane's coup attempt. "This will destroy him," Quillen said, "but it doesn't give us a cure. For that, we still need to understand the human's adaptation mechanism." "I've been documenting his integration," Sera said. "His body doesn't just accept foreign material, it rewrites it at the cellular level, creates hybrid tissue that's part organic, part synthetic." "We need to replicate that response in our own biology," Quillen said. "But our immune systems are too aggressive. They attack anything that tries to modify our cellular structure." He looked at Jim. "Unless we can teach them not to." Jim asked. "Direct biological interface. More invasive than the neural extraction. We'd need to link your circulatory system to one of our people, let your adaptive cells physically interact with theirs. Your body would demonstrate the integration process, and their immune system would learn from watching." Sera went still. "That's never been attempted. The rejection response alone could kill both subjects." "Which is why it would need to be someone whose immune system is already compromised," Quillen said gently. "Someone dying from the plague, with nothing left to lose." "Ren," Sera whispered. "He volunteered the moment he heard about the human's arrival, before you went rogue, before any of this." Quillen touched her shoulder. "He wants to help, and if it works, we can synthesize a cure that will save everyone." Jim watched Sera's face cycle through emotions: fear, hope, guilt, determination. "What are the risks? To Jim?" "His body is remarkably resilient, but this would strain even his adaptive capabilities. The interface would need to be maintained for hours while the synthesis completes. During that time, both subjects would be vulnerable to infection, system shock, cascade failure." Quillen met Jim's eyes. "You'd be gambling your life on biology we barely understand." "And if I don't? We transmit the evidence, expose Kane, maybe prevent the coup, but thousands die from the plague while we spend years trying to develop a cure through conventional research." Jim looked at Sera. Her gold eyes were wide, conflicted, wanting him to agree but terrified of losing him. "Take me to Ren," he said. The medical bay was cramped, equipment humming. The man in the bed looked like Sera, same green skin, same sharp features, but wasted by illness. His breathing was labored, body failing. "Ren," Sera said, taking his hand, "I'm here." His eyes opened, gold dulled by pain. "Little sister, heard you made quite the entrance." "I brought someone." She gestured to Jim. "This is Lieutenant Commander James Hatcher. He's willing to do the interface." Ren studied Jim with the same analytical intensity as his sister. "The human with the magic arm. They said you can do things our bodies forgot how to do." "Then let's teach my body to remember," Ren's smile was weak but genuine. Besides, nothing else has worked. Might as well try something crazy. Quillen began preparing the equipment, 2 chairs facing each other, connected by a complex array of tubes and monitors. We'll need to establish multiple connection points, arterial, venous, and neural pathways. The integration will be painful for both of you. How long's? 6 hours minimum, possibly longer if complications arise. She looked at Jim. You don't have to do this. Yes, I do. He moved to the first chair. Your brother is dying because someone weaponized a disease. My team died because of bad intel from a conspiracy. This ends both of those things. So yeah, I have to. Sera helped him into the chair. Her hands were gentle as she attached monitoring equipment, started the IV lines. When she had to pierce his skin with the arterial catheter, her jaw tightened. Sorry, she murmured. I've had worse. He caught her hand. He's your brother. We're going to save him. She pressed her forehead to his, just for a moment. Don't die on me. I'm just starting to get used to having you around. Wouldn't dream of it. Ren was secured in the opposite chair. Quillen checked both sets of monitors, then looked at them. Once I start the pump, there's no stopping until the synthesis completes or someone crashes. Are you both ready? Jim nodded. Ren did the same. Beginning interface, Quillen said. The pump engaged. Jim felt it immediately. Foreign presence entering his bloodstream, cells that weren't his own. His body recognized the intrusion, started to respond. But instead of rejecting it, his adaptive biology did what it did best. Analyzed, incorporated, modified. Through the connection, he felt Ren's body on the other side. The weakness, the failing systems, the immune response that had turned traitor. And underneath it all, the echo of what that biology used to be. Strong, vital, capable. The pain built gradually. Not the sharp agony of the neural extraction, but a deep ache that spread through his entire body. His cells were teaching Ren's cells, demonstrating the integration process. And Ren's immune system was learning, slowly recalibrating its responses. Hours passed. Jim floated in a haze of discomfort and exhaustion. Sera's voice was a constant presence, monitoring vitals, making adjustments, keeping them both stable. He focused on that, her voice, her presence, the reason he was doing this. Integration rate increasing, Quillen announced. Ren's immune markers are changing. His body is beginning to adapt. Jim could feel it too. The connection was deeper now, almost intimate. He sensed Ren's relief as pain began to ease, sensed the moment the other man's body started to heal itself. It's working, Sera said, and her voice cracked with emotion. The hybrid cells are stable. His body is accepting the augmentation repairs. More time passed. Jim's awareness narrowed to just sensation. Blood flowing, cells adapting, 2 biologies learning to speak the same language. We have enough, Quillen finally said. I can synthesize the cure from the hybrid tissue, beginning extraction. The process reversed. Jim's blood returned to his body, carrying with it exhaustion and a strange sense of loss. The connection had been uncomfortable, but breaking it felt wrong somehow. The chairs separated. Medical staff swarmed both of them. Jim barely registered the activity, too drained to focus. Jim, Sera's face appeared above him. You did it. The synthesis worked. We can mass-produce the cure. Ren? Alive, stable, already showing improvement. Tears tracked down her green skin. You saved him, saved all of us. Jim tried to respond, but darkness pulled at him. His body had been pushed beyond its limits. The last thing he felt was Sera's hand in his, warm and solid, before consciousness slipped away. When he woke, the room was quiet. Dim lighting, steady beep of monitors. His body ached in ways he couldn't describe, like he'd been dismantled and reassembled slightly wrong. Sera was there, asleep in a chair beside his bed, her hand still held his. Jim squeezed gently. Her eyes opened immediately, gold brightening with relief. How long? He asked. 18 hours. Quillen said your body needed time to recover from the strain. She moved closer, checking his monitors with practiced efficiency. The cure is already being distributed. Every rebel cell, every hospital we can reach. Kane's conspiracy is falling apart. Once people realized the cure exists, his power base crumbled. Your brother? Walking, talking, eating solid food for the first time in months. Her voice caught. He wants to meet you properly. Thank you. Later. Right now I just want— Jim stopped, reconsidering his words. What? Sera asked softly. I want you here, with me. She smiled, exhausted and beautiful. I'm not going anywhere. Good. He shifted, making room. Then get in here. You look like you haven't slept in days. Jim, that's not appropriate medical. Sera, get in the bed. She hesitated, then kicked off her shoes and climbed in beside him. The bed was narrow, forcing them close. Her head settled against his shoulder, her body warm along his side. This is highly unprofessional, she murmured. We're fugitives who just saved your species. I think we've moved past professional. A laugh escaped her, turning into a yawn. Fair point. They lay in comfortable silence. Jim felt her breathing slow, felt her relax against him. His metal arm was still damaged, but his flesh and blood arm wrapped around her, holding her close. Jim, she whispered. Yeah? When this is over, when we've dealt with Kane and everything settles, what happens to us? I don't know, but I'd like to find out. She tilted her head to look at him. Me too. He kissed her then, finally. Gentle and careful, mindful of their exhaustion and injuries. She kissed back, and it was everything. Relief and promise, and the beginning of something neither of them had names for yet. When they broke apart, she was smiling. My people are going to have questions about the human who saved us. Let them question. I've got my answer right here. Sera settled back against him, and this time when she closed her eyes, contentment softened her features. Jim held her and watched the lights of the rebel base through the viewport, thinking about all the impossible things that had happened. He'd lost his team, his arm, his entire mission, found himself captured, tortured, turned into a fugitive. But he'd also found her, and somehow that made everything else worth it. The diplomatic summit convened on a neutral station. Representatives from a dozen species gathered to discuss the conspiracy that had nearly toppled an entire civilization. Jim stood in the observation deck watching ships arrive, his repaired metal arm moving smoothly now that Sera had recalibrated it properly. Nervous? She asked, coming up beside him. About testifying against a decorated general in front of half the galaxy? Little bit. She took his hand, fingers intertwining with metal. You've faced worse. Yeah, but usually I'm shooting at people, not talking to them. A laugh escaped her. 3 weeks since the cure had been synthesized and her whole demeanor had transformed. The exhaustion was gone, replaced by energy and purpose. Ren was alive. Her people were healing. The weight she'd carried for months had finally lifted. General Kane's delegation just docked, Quillen said, approaching them. Security is tight, but he's demanding to face his accusers directly. Let him, Jim said. I've got nothing to hide. The summit chamber was massive, amphitheater-style seating surrounding a central platform. Jim and Sera took their positions, the data crystal containing all evidence loaded and ready. Across from them, General Vrex Kane sat with his military escort, a tall figure with sharp features and eyes like black ice. The mediator, a neutral party from the Galactic Council, called the session to order. We are here to address allegations of conspiracy, biological warfare, and attempted coup d'etat. Lieutenant Commander Hatcher, you may present your testimony. Jim stepped forward. Public speaking wasn't his specialty, but he'd learned to deliver mission briefs under pressure. This was just another brief, one that happened to determine the fate of worlds. He told them everything. The original mission, the ambush, waking in the medical facility, Sera's discovery of his adaptive biology, the neural extraction that revealed Kane's conspiracy. The evidence was damning. Financial records, research data, communications showing clearly that Kane had engineered the plague to consolidate power. Lies, Kane said when Jim finished, fabricated by human intelligence to destabilize our military. This specimen was captured during an illegal infiltration. His testimony is worthless. The evidence isn't testimony, Sera said, standing. It's documentation from your own facilities, authenticated by multiple independent sources. You created a bioweapon that's killed thousands of our people. For what? Political power? Kane's expression didn't flicker. Dr. Valen, a brilliant physician who abandoned her post to consort with an enemy combatant. Your credibility is suspect at best. My credibility saved our entire species, Sera shot back. While you were planning your coup, I was finding a cure. Ask the thousands who are alive because of what we did if my credibility matters." Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Kane's jaw tightened. "Even if these accusations were true," he said, "the human remains a security risk. His adaptive biology makes him a potential vector for bioweapons. He should be contained, studied, controlled." "He's not a weapon," Sera said. "He's a person who risked everything to help us." "A person who can rewrite his own biology," Kane countered, "who carries foreign technology integrated into his tissue. What happens when humanity decides to weaponize that? When they create armies of adaptive soldiers who can't be stopped by conventional means?" Jim felt the mood in the chamber shift. Fear was powerful, and Kane was wielding it expertly. "You want to talk about weapons," Jim said. "Let's talk about what you did. You engineered a plague that specifically targeted augmented soldiers, the ones most loyal to the current government. Conveniently, you had the cure ready for those who swore allegiance to you. That's not security, that's terrorism." "Proof of intent," Quillen added, uploading new data. Communications between Kane and his co-conspirators discussing target demographics and timeline for the coup. He planned to let thousands die, then position himself as the savior who could cure the survivors. The evidence displayed across every screen. Kane's carefully neutral expression finally cracked. "This summit has no authority over military operations," he said. "I answer to my own chain of command." "Your chain of command is here," said a new voice. Chief Physician Torin Kales entered the chamber, flanked by military commanders. Jim tensed. Kales had been ready to dissect him, but the physician's expression was grim rather than hostile. "The medical council has reviewed the evidence," Kales said. "The correlation between augmentation protocols and plague susceptibility is exact. You targeted specific units, specific personnel, all potential threats to your power base." He turned to the assembly. "General Kane is hereby stripped of rank and command, pending trial for crimes against our people." Kane stood, and his escort moved with him. For a moment, Jim thought he might actually surrender. Then Kane's hand moved, and everything went wrong. The weapon was small, concealed, but deadly. Kane fired at Sera before anyone could react. Jim moved on instinct, metal arm raised. The energy bolt hit his shoulder, overloading circuits. Pain exploded through the integration site, but he was already moving, closing distance. Security rushed forward, but Kane's escort had weapons too. The chamber erupted into chaos. Jim tackled Kane, both of them crashing to the floor. His damaged arm was useless, but his human one worked fine. He punched Kane once, twice, felt bone crack under his knuckles. "You should have stayed down," Kane hissed, blood on his teeth. He twisted, knife appearing from somewhere. The blade drove toward Jim's throat. Sera was there. She caught Kane's wrist with both hands, leveraged her whole body against his arm. The knife clattered away. Kane threw her off, raised his weapon again. Ren's shot took him in the chest. Sera's brother stood at the chamber entrance, rebel-issued pistol smoking. Kane collapsed, gasping. Security swarmed them. Medical teams arrived. Jim found Sera in the chaos, pulled her close. She was shaking, adrenaline crash hitting hard. "You okay?" he asked. "He tried to kill me." "I noticed. You handled it well." She laughed, slightly hysterical. "I'm a doctor. I'm supposed to save lives, not fight people." "You do both. It's impressive." Ren joined them looking shaken. "Never shot anyone before? That was terrible." "Welcome to my world," Jim said. "Thanks for the assist." "You saved my life. Least I could do." Medical teams hauled Kane away on a stretcher. He'd survived to stand trial. Jim watched him go and felt only tired relief. No satisfaction, no triumph, just exhaustion and the knowledge that it was finally over. The mediator called for order. It took time, but eventually the chamber settled. "Given the circumstances," the mediator said, "this council moves to accept the evidence against General Kane and his co-conspirators. Formal charges will be filed, trials convened." She looked at Jim. "Lieutenant Commander Hatcher, the human government has been contacted. They're requesting your repatriation." Jim's stomach sank. He'd known this was coming, but hearing it made it real. "However," the mediator continued, "given your instrumental role in resolving this crisis and your unique medical significance, Multiple parties have requested you remain in this sector. The decision is yours." Jim looked at Sera. She was watching him, gold eyes wide and uncertain. "I'd like to stay," he said. "If that's possible. I've got unfinished business here." Relief flooded Sera's expression. The mediator nodded. "Political asylum is granted. You'll have full diplomatic protection." "What about my career, my life back home?" "You died in the mission," the mediator said gently. "Officially. Your government has already held the memorial service. As far as Earth is concerned, Lieutenant Commander James Hatcher is gone." It should have hurt more, the finality of it, losing his old life completely. But when Jim looked at Sera, at Wren standing beside her, at Quillen and the rebels who'd become allies, he found he didn't mind as much as he'd expected. "Then I guess I'm staying," he said. The summit concluded with agreements for monitoring, reparations, and new protocols. Jim barely paid attention. Sera's hand found his, and they slipped away as soon as permitted. The observation deck was empty when they returned. Jim pulled Sera close, and she came willingly, wrapping her arms around him. "You're really staying?" she asked. "Where else would I go? Everyone I care about is here now." "You barely know me." "I know enough. I know you risked everything to save your people. I know you're brilliant and brave and stubborn as hell. I know when you kiss me, I don't think about anything except doing it again." She smiled. "That's awfully presumptuous." "Then prove me wrong." She didn't. Instead, she kissed him, deep and hungry, and filled with weeks of tension finally breaking. Jim's good arm pulled her tighter, and the kiss went from desperate to thorough, exploring and claiming all at once. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Sera's pupils were dilated, her green skin flushed darker. "My quarters are nearby," she said, "if you're interested." Very interested. She took his hand and led him through the station corridors. Her quarters were small but private, the door sealing behind them with a solid click. Jim barely noticed the decor. He was too focused on Sera, on the way she looked at him like he was something precious and desired all at once. "I've never done this," she said. "Not like this. My people approach intimacy differently. Planned, controlled, efficient." "Then let me show you how humans do it," Jim said, cupping her face. "Messy and emotional and worth every moment." He kissed her again, slower this time. Let his hands learn her shape, the smooth texture of her skin, the way she responded to his touch. She made small sounds, surprised and pleased, her own hands exploring him with clinical precision that gradually dissolved into pure sensation. They found their way to the bed, shedding clothes and hesitation alike. Jim traced the patterns on her skin, fascinated by how they shifted color with her arousal. Sera mapped his scars, his integration site, the places where human and machine merged. "You're beautiful," she whispered. "So are you." Their coupling was careful at first, learning each other's responses, what brought pleasure and what didn't translate across species. But care gave way to passion, and passion to something deeper. Connection that went beyond physical, built on trust and sacrifice, and choosing each other despite impossible odds. Afterward, they lay tangled together, exhausted and satisfied. Sera's head rested on Jim's chest, her hand over his heart. "So that's how humans do it," she said. "That's how humans do it when they care about someone." She tilted her head to look at him. "Do you care about me?" "Yeah, I really do. I care about you too. More than is probably wise for someone I've known less than a month." Wisdom is overrated. She laughed, the sound light and free. Through the viewport, stars drifted past, infinite and beautiful. Jim held her and thought about everything that had led here. The mission gone wrong, the team he'd lost, the arm that had brought him to her. "What do we do now?" Sera asked. "Live, help people, figure out this thing between us." He pressed a kiss to her hair. "Save the galaxy if needed. The usual." "The usual," she repeated, amused. "Is that what you call this?" "I call it home," Jim said. "Wherever you are, that's home now." Sera's eyes brightened with tears. She kissed him again, soft and sweet. "Then welcome home, Jim Hatcher." He held her as she drifted off to sleep, held her as the station rotated through artificial night. His old life was gone, his future uncertain. But he had Sera, had purpose, had a reason to keep fighting and adapting and surviving. The alien sky outside was no longer wrong. It was exactly where he belonged.